I'm making this video because last week I noticed that this vehicle, it's a Chevy Silverado 2006 with a 6-liter V8 in it. I noticed that the mileage was lower than what I was getting about a year and a half ago. I had measured it during a trip and I was getting almost 14 miles to the gallon. And I did a hunting trip last week, and I happened to notice it, so I checked the mileage by measuring the gas that was put in and how far it went, and it was down to about 11 miles to the gallon, which is like a 25–30% drop. So wasn't sure what was going on because the car was running fine, good power, smooth, good acceleration. No obvious reasons that like a bad spark plug, cylinder that's missing, no engine codes, nothing like that. So I consulted with a friend of mine who said, change the spark plugs and do an induction cleaning. Changing spark plugs, everybody knows what that is. So I did that. My spark plugs were Bosch Platinum. They had 50,000 miles on them. I took the old ones out. They were pristine. Every one of them looked the same. They weren't clogged or fouled or anything. But I replaced them with Denko iridium plugs. They're basically the best you can buy, longest lasting. I don't think that had much of an effect. Induction cleaning, what is that? Induction is the system that inducts air into the motor. Motors need air and gas to run. If they don't get the right amount of each of those on demand, the motor is not as efficient as it should be. Well, my friend who's a Mercedes-trained mechanic explained to me that a 16-year-old engine with 150,000 miles on it, even if it's well maintained, is going to build up crud in the air passages inside the intake manifold all the way down into the cylinders. In addition, the cylinders themselves and the pistons will build up carbon, thin carbon deposits on the surfaces. This induction cleaning loosens up those surfaces and loosens up those deposits and lets them slough off and get blown out through the exhaust. The way you do that is with a product like this called Seafoam. It's a Seafoam spray, and it's specifically for cleaning intake systems and carbon deposits at the same time. So this is about $10–15, not expensive. It's pretty easy to do. So Seafoam comes with this little tube that you hook up to the can, and the other end goes into the throttle body, and I'm going to show you in a minute how I do that. And you basically pump the whole can through the car while the engine's warmed up and running at 2,000 RPM. Then you let it sit, and you take it for a drive and blow out a lot of those deposits. So I did it. So to do the induction cleaning, you're going to use the spray Seafoam. It comes in this bottle, and it comes with this tube to spray it. So the way it's going to work is you're going to connect the tube into here, and then this end of the tube is going to go into the throttle body, and the throttle body is right here. This is the air intake that feeds the throttle body. So you're going to take this clamp off right here and pull this whole thing back. Then you're going to take this and insert this end around the top of the throttle body at 12 o'clock, and you adjust this by pushing it in or pulling it out so that the tip is a 1/4 inch from the top of the butterfly valve. So if this is like the throttle body with the air intake taken off, you're going to position it like this, and like this, where this tip is just a 1/4 inch from the top of the butterfly valve. Then you're gonna, once you've got this positioned, you push this air intake back on and reclamp it over the tube with this part sticking out, and then you'll plug this part into the can like that. Then what you do, and once you got that setup done, you get the motor warmed up. Actually, before you do this, get the motor warmed up to operating temperature. Then do that connection where you insert the tube, and then re-put the air intake back on, clamp it. Then restart the motor and set the RPM by depressing the gas pedal up to 2,000 RPM. The way I do that is I wedge a piece of 1x3 between the seat and the gas pedal, and I just adjust it and position it so that the RPM holds at 2,000 RPM. Once you've done that, then you now this is connected like that. You connect it here, and then while the engine's running at 2,000 RPM, you push this down until the can's empty. It takes about 7 minutes, and it's a little tricky because it's hard to take some pressure to push this down, but you can do it. So after about 7 minutes and the can's empty, then shut the motor off and let it sit for 10 minutes. And that lets the seafoam product settle and seep into all of the surfaces inside the intake manifold, all the metal surfaces on the valves, the passageways where the air goes, and everything. So you let that sit for 10 minutes. And during those 10 minutes, you can take this off again and remove. You can remove the tube from the throttle body, put this back on, and reclamp it the way it needs to be. So after it's been sitting for 10 minutes, then you take the car out and you drive it hard for 10 minutes. Take it out in the highway, put it in a lower gear, and take it up to 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. Get those RPMs running high. It's going to pull a lot of air through the engine, a lot of gas through the engine, and it will blow a lot of those softened carbon deposits out of the whole system. Do that for 10 minutes and then come back, then you're done. It's really not hard to do. This costs 10-15 bucks, so it's definitely a do-it-yourself project, and that's all there is to it. You will notice the next day, if you let the car sit overnight, when you start the car the next day, you may get some white smoke or some bluish smoke when you first start the motor. That's again because some of these carbon deposits are still coming loose and are getting burned off when you start the engine, and that's good. And the only other thing I did, so I changed the spark plugs, I did the induction cleaning, and the only other thing is I checked the pressure in the tires, and one tire in the rear was down a little bit, so I topped that one off. That wasn't enough to really have a big effect on mileage. So what happened? I took exactly the same drive. It's where I go duck hunting. It's about 40 miles of about 30 miles of highway driving and about 10 miles of kind of country road city driving. And it was the exact same drive that I did when I tested the mileage before I did the treatment. And the new mileage was up about 13.5 miles per gallon. So it went from, I think, about 11.4, 11.3 up to 13.5. And that's about a 20%, over a 20% improvement. So I would give it a vote, a positive vote. Wasn't a lot of work. It's going to save me money on gas, and is probably having the engine run more smoothly. So I recommend it. You can get this done professionally. The professionals use a compressor with an attachment that they pour the cleaning, the equivalent of this stuff, through, and they blast it in the same way in through the throttle body. That may be more effective. They can do it longer, but I just don't know because I haven't compared them. The other thing you could do is buy 2 cans of this, and on a big V8 like this, I kind of wish I had done that. When the first can ran out, just hook up the second can and pump it through, so that you get a lot of it in there in the motor, and maybe it's going to clean off more of the deposits. The only other thing I did is I put a can of gum out injector cleaner into the gas. So that's been running through the motor as well. So if there's any deposits in the injection system and the fuel system, those have been dissolved. So put your comments below, and let me know if you try this, what kind of results you get. Thank you.